So good evening, ladies and germs. That's how comedy always seemed to start, at least in the 70s. It was, I think, the beginning of the term cringe for, ew, I don't like that. But anyway, comedy has come a long way, and I've gotten old enough that I've kind of seen the changes over the years. So instead of doing stand up, I'm going to do some sit down from my closet. And maybe you can call this iPhone comedy, whatever you want, or just a comedy review of what I've observed over the years. So thankfully, that starting opening line has moved on. But we have plenty of other good examples rather than that one. Starting with like Robin Williams. Robin Williams was an amazing comedian. He wasn't just funny with his words, he was funny with his facial expression and innuendo and big physical comedy. He was working on so many levels at the same time. At the end of his comedy routine, you thought you had just been through a 30-minute high-impact aerobic workout. Really, that is what it was like. But he was amazing, and it's such a loss to all of us. So what a great guy, though. But he really did great stand-up and great physical comedy. But being in my closet, I'm guessing that no stand-up comedian can do this physical comedy. Try that on stage. Yeah. But anyway, moving on. There were lots of great, and there are lots of great comedians. Ricky Gervais is a big one now. Good comedian. But you know, I watched his episode or his show on Netflix not long ago, and it was weird because he hadn't even started his routine yet, and they are just laughing and clapping hysterically for him just cursing. And it's like, really? That's what's going to make you laugh? I mean, if that's all it takes to be a great comedian these days, to get that sort of uproarious laughter, well, you know, any plumber who's dealing with a really nasty situation and probably has 30 different ways to describe poop, should be just the most amazing comedian that's out there right now, but not really the case. But, you know, there's other ones like Ali Wong. I watched one of her earlier specials, and it was pretty funny, but there was a lot of crude stuff in there too that really didn't need to be on there. And then I watched a later one, and oh my gosh, it was all vagina humor. And, you know, I think most of the audience after a while, they were just kind of, ooh, do you have to talk about that all the time? It used to be that nobody wanted, you know, growing up in the 70s, nobody wanted to talk about period products, particularly period products in a men's bathroom. I mean, what have we done? But anyway, nobody wants to talk about that stuff. And Amy, you know, move on, find something humorous. You got good capability, but you don't need to go dirty all the time. You know, it used to be that men were from Mars and women were from Venus. And that was great. And you know, I'm thrilled that Amy has a legitimate vagina. That's great. But, you know, the men from Mars, women are from Venus. We seem like we have just moved on from that. And now we are in some neo-Marxist hellhole on the planet Uranus. Everything's about butts. You know, whether it's Kim Kardashian rearranging her body so that she's got this ginormous butt, or Madonna rearranging things on her face and on her body. Can't we just let it kind of be what it was? Let's let men be men and women be women, and remember that that's kind of how we're designed. But there's a lot of other great comedians. Like Anita Renfro was a favorite of mine, and maybe you haven't heard of her. But Anita, she was kind of a niche comedian. She hit the Christian women's circuit, but she was hilarious. And maybe, you know, if you're a guy, this isn't really all that funny, but even if you're not a Christian, she hit enough women's stuff, particularly middle-aged women, that she was amazing. And you know, now that she's a little bit older, she's kind of my age, and she's probably slowing down a little bit, not doing so much of the circuit because she's made a bunch of money on this. So why would you kind of go into your 60s doing stand up in churches? But she was hilarious, and she got a lot of traction from that the 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 routine she did with the William Tell overture. So it was, you know, get out of bed, you sleepyhead. It went through the whole routine of their family during a day. And then at the end of a very long and grueling set of activities and homework and everything, that at the end is, and tomorrow we will do it all again. And that is true. You gotta just laugh at the routines we have to have. But she was the best. But now we got folks like, you know, we kind of got the workout kings comedy. You got uh, Joe Rogan, you know, and maybe he's more interviews than comedy, but you know, he's funny. But JP Sears, now they're definitely the workout guy, and doing all that satire is just hilarious. And then the Babylon Bees, their skits are just hilarious. You can't help but laugh what is happening in our culture right now. There's just so much material, and it's sad that some comedians really can't make use of that, because there is a lot. I mean, take the whole Biden administration. There's a lot of potential there. You know, and maybe they don't want to do the political route, because, you know, late night TV used to be amazing. You had like Carson and Leno and Joan Rivers, and you know, Letterman not so much, but those folks, those skewered both sides politically. They were hilarious and a lot of fun, and it's been kind of lost on late night. And you got to make fun of this administration, because if you don't, you just want to cry. So let's hope that things will change one day. So then you got Dave Chappelle. Now he is at the top of his game right now, making a lot of money on his comedy routines. So I watched one of his recent ones, the Dreamers one. It was good, but you know what? Dave's really more of a storyteller than really a comedian, because if you look at the hour set, there's really about 5 or 6 stories and maybe 10 to 15 punchlines through that whole time. And so for what he has to be getting paid, because I'm sure it's great, the dollars per punchline has got to be pretty darn high. But he's an amazing storyteller, and people can relate to that, and that's really good. So gotta love Dave Chappelle. But you know, punchlines per dollar, it's pretty good. Now there used to be, well, there actually was a movie done called Punchline, and Sally Field was in it, and she was known more, and still is, as a dramatic actress rather than a stand-up comedian. And you know, I never actually saw the movie, but I just know that they were trying to shame her at the time. So maybe this was the beginning of the cancel culture, was shaming her for doing a role of a comedian when she wasn't a comedian herself. And isn't this a weird place where we actors have to be the role that they want to assume? They can't be blind in a role if they're not blind in real life. They can't play a disabled role if they aren't disabled in real life. They can't be trans in a role if they aren't trans in real life. You know, you got Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and you can't be a dwarf unless you're, but speaking of Disney, haven't they really gone off the rails? You know, on some of the stuff they're doing, it's just kind of a strange business model. When your target market is 5 to 8-year-olds, particularly for your movies and your TV shows, and you know, Mom and Dad take me to Disneyland, all that, and they're just so pro-abortion. It's like you're killing off your next set of toddlers and children that should be wanting your stuff, because they've all gone woke. And you know, maybe that makes them feel virtuous, but you really want to keep your customers around. Who would think that that would be a great idea? So, Disney used to be the big thing, though. And I was in California, and there was a Disney store. So I went and I bought some slippers, some Tweety Bird slippers. And for those who don't know who Tweety Bird is the big yellow, or the little yellow bird. But the slippers had a big yellow Tweety Bird head on the front of them, over the toes. And they were big and soft and fluffy. And they were really comfortable and really warm. It gave you this warm, fuzzy feeling, but they really weren't practical. You run into stuff, you trip on your Tweety Bird head. It was a great idea, but not so great in practice. And so I think that's kind of what we've got with Joe Biden right now. He was billed as this, grandfatherly, bring some normalcy back to the presidency. But we aren't getting what we need right now. And, just like those Tweety Bird slippers, we really need to throw out Joe, too. Throw out the Tweety Bird slippers. Yeah, but yes, I am a Trump Republican. But, you would think that somebody in the media would figure out what half the country is. So I'm a person who thinks that it's good to have your country have a higher priority for what it does than other countries' priorities. So I think that's doesn't seem that outrageous, and that I think it's good that families can feed their family, that they can afford food. I think that that's a good thing, that we should have a border. That's a good thing, and that we should be able to protect ourselves. But that seems just to kind of be lost these days. So we can't talk politics in our family because it's just too dangerous of a topic. But my sister, she had worked at a company where Joe Biden came through Iowa, because that's where my family's from. They came through Iowa, and they stopped at her business, and she was doing hospitality and giving them, treats and everything, to make people, feel welcome. And the politician always loves whatever you deliver to them. Oh, this is just the most amazing. So my husband was watching, this is years ago when Bill Clinton was running for president, and he was going into a pizza restaurant, and a pizza had just come out of the oven. So you know that this thing is hot. And he takes a big bite, and there has to be cheese at like 160 degrees that is just stuck to the roof of his mouth, and it is burning up. And he just goes, oh, how wonderful that pizza was. How wonderful it was. Not that I am in intense pain, but how wonderful the pizza was. And you just know that, okay, he had the fire in the belly that they used to say for being president. And with Joe, I don't even know if he knows he's running for president this time around, and definitely doesn't have a fire, but maybe he has ice cream in the belly. There we go, ice cream in the belly. So that's the new thing. But anyway, so my sister makes these cookies for Joe when he's coming through town. And she makes oatmeal raisin cookies. My sister is an amazing, amazing cook. And oatmeal raisin, that's the best you could do. But she could turn, something not so great into something really good. So I'm sure oatmeal raisin was good. But oatmeal raisin? There's so many other cookies. But Joe loved her cookies, and she got a big hug from Joe. And so while we can't talk about if your buddy Joe is still, you're still buddies, if you still like his politics or not, but the real elephant in the room, and I'm not talking Republican elephant here, the real elephant in the room is, did she get sniffed? I don't know. Maybe she did. Hard to say. So my husband just retired a few months ago, and it's been great because he has started to take over some of the cooking. And, after I've been doing this for 30 years, I need a little bit of help because I just feel kind of tapped out about making, meals all the time. And he's home all the time, so we're eating more food at home because of him being around. So he's been watching all these cooking shows, whether it's surveying or grilling or the Thanksgiving turkey or whatever. And no matter what it is that these guys or women have been making, it is always so fabulous at the end. It's always fabulous. The sounds they make, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. They pat the table, pat, 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 pat. Oh, just wonderful. Can't wait to get some more of that. Just nothing, no disaster in the kitchen, will ever come up. It's just everything is wonderful. And, I think that's how I feel about trans people. But, when we were taking our son to one of the colleges in our state, big college, and we're driving up with all of his stuff to move into the dorms his first year. And there's this trans person that is greeting us, and it's they're very nice. But the thing is that most of the time with trans people, I know if they're transitioning from one gender to another, and I know the path that they're on, that they're moving towards this or they're moving towards that. And this person, I couldn't tell. The only thing I knew is that this wasn't working so good. This was kind of not good, no matter which direction, forward or backward they were headed. It was not good. But I'm sure they had some story to tell about it, and maybe they've written their book by now, but they had their story to tell. And all of us have a story. And we sometimes have a punchline and sometimes we don't. But who had the best punchline? Well, actually, the best storyteller. The best storyteller in all of time was Jesus Christ. Jesus was the best storyteller ever, and he had the best punchline. But he had the best stories because he would get a crowd no matter where he went. Once he started talking publicly, he had something that those stories, they just touched people's hearts, and he brought the point home. It was just amazing. And our pastors from our church are great storytellers too, and that just works so well for our church. But Jesus was hands down the best storyteller. But here's the punchline that nobody got. So there's a verse in 1 Corinthians 2:8, and it says, "None of the rulers of this age knew this wisdom, for if they had known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory." That tells us that even Satan and all of the demons in this world, and by golly, they're all coming out of the woodwork right now, but even Satan didn't get what Jesus had come to do. He was going to come. He was going to live an amazing, sinless life. He was going to die on the cross. He was going to be raised from the dead, and he was going to take away all of our sins. And that is available to every single one of us. If we want it, we just have to want it. And I urge you to want that, because there's nothing else like it. To know what you're going to do when you die, that is an amazing thing. And so Jesus's punchline was raising from the dead and taking away our sins. And he gave Satan the sucker punchline right to his head. And we should all take that wonderful gift with us to the grave. So thanks for watching.